Welcome to the Rewilded Human podcast, where Dr. Lucille and Lynn will tackle your most difficult and intimate questions with candor, tough love, and a little dash of humor. In today's episode,
this is why everybody who's in a serious relationship that they think is going to go towards marriage needs to talk about money upfront.
We need to teach this to our children, to our girls, when they grow up, not to be dependent on men, but to be able to provide for yourself and always have that freedom that, if you're in this toxic situation, that you can walk away and support yourself.
Welcome, everybody, back to the Rewilded Human podcast, where I, Dr. Lucille, and my absolutely beautiful and wise co-host, Lynn, are going to unpack your problems and help you get back to a natural state of living. So today we have a really important episode, which so many people in marriage have to face, and it's marriage and finances. Let's just dive right in, and I'll go over the first question.
Okay.
Beth has made an unpleasant discovery. I had no idea when I was dating my husband that he was so stingy. Now that we're married, it's painfully clear how we differ about spending money. I feel I'm responsible with money, but he sees me as a spendthrift. And we argue constantly about every purchase we make for our home or how much we spend on vacations. We never resolve the problem. I am so frustrated. I don't know what to do. Well, that is a very common issue. And
Yes.
I know it's too little too late, Beth, but this is why everybody who's in a serious relationship that they think is going to go towards marriage needs to talk about money upfront.
Absolutely.
And I'm talking like second date, before you've even had sex.
Yeah, no, I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah. And you're going to learn a lot, like pay attention to how money is handled between the two of you when you're on dates.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Because I've been in that situation where I've been on a date with somebody and oops, all of a sudden they forgot their wallet when the bill arrives. Right?
Yeah. Red flag.
Red flag.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care what your excuse is, buddy, but this has been done too many times in the history of the world. So no.
Yes, absolutely.
But yes. So I don't know, Lynn, have you run into it personally?
I haven't really been in a relationship where the finance, our approach to finances was so different. And it's definitely not the case with my husband. We are very lucky that, we can spend as we want. We don't need to discuss things. Like, we both trust the other person that we spend sensibly. And of course, with big purchases, we discuss everything. I'm not going to go out and buy a car without him, and he won't do this either. So, we're in harmony in that regard. So it's really nice. But I see so many relationships being completely destroyed by finances, and especially different views on finances. And I see people that are hiding things and lying to their partners. And I think it's just absolutely horrible. So it's really difficult to change anything, because like Lucille said, if you don't have that discussion beforehand and you have a completely different approach, neither person is going to change. The stingy one is always going to be stingy. How do you change from that? You're not going to be like, oh, okay, honey, well, spend whatever, because it's like literally killing him, right? He can't stand the fact that you're spending money on something that he would never spend money on. And for the person that likes to spend money and enjoys that part, it's going to be very hard to stop. So I can't even imagine how you can find a compromise in that instance, because I know people on both sides and I can't see them change.
Yeah, it's hard for people. I agree with Lynn. It's hard for people to change their relationship with money. But sometimes there are people who have some awareness that, wow, maybe I'm, a little over the top on this, and they value the relationship enough that they will work on it. Mm-hmm. But it's not that common. And where it comes out a lot is in when people decide, okay, we need to go see a marital counselor or therapist.
Yeah.
And this is where it can be seen. It can be very painfully clear. And what usually comes out is that there's been some trauma or some kind of bad experience around money or a lot of programming from the family of origin about how to do money,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, like, I grew up in a family where, you know, my parents came out of World War II. They saw the Depression, and even so, my father, I think, was fairly reasonable about money, but my mother was a demon around money. It was like
Oh.
every penny had to be saved, and the fights that they had around money, like, they made life miserable for me, for sure, and for themselves.
How did
And
that
this is not,
influence your approach to money?
I hated I actually, you know, for the first little while, I was very, very responsible, but I would go in and out. I would kind of like ignore the money situation. Like, I wouldn't look at my financial statements. I could let them go for a while, you know, for a while, and in a kind of, you know, denial, I suppose. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I'm overdrawn on my credit cards. Now, for the most part, I was very responsible, but I came away from that experience in my family with the feeling that whenever I was with anybody who was stingy with money, it literally felt physically like there was a hand around my throat.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know that.
Yeah.
And I hated that.
Yeah.
And again, I didn't spend huge amounts. I'm not an extravagant person. Thinking back on it, I would have been maybe a little more careful early on about seeing where every penny was going, but not necessarily controlling,
Yeah.
you know, everything down to the last penny.
Yeah.
So it certainly is something that will mark you for life. If your husband is willing and sees that it's really destroying the marriage, and you have to be very open about that. You have to start talking about, this is intolerable for me. You have to sometimes have to put it in those very clear terms, that you want the marriage to be profitable, right? For both of you, you want to have that financial security, but the way your husband is going about trying to create that it's just way too painful for you. It is. It's like living in a prison. It's just,
Yeah.
it's just horrible, and you can't enjoy anything. And usually what happens is people scream about the money, but the underlying thing is not talked about, which is, what is your fear? What is your fear around spending the money? How did you get to be this way about the money? So rather than constantly screaming about, well, but you spent $500 more than we budgeted for, you know, you don't talk about the actual money so much as what is the underlying attitude and belief system and the programming that you each have around money.
What about separating finances for someone like that?
Well, but then, you know, that involves yet another whole kettle of fish too, because what if the husband is so afraid of what's going to happen with the marital finances that he's going to be very controlling about, no, you have to, you know, contribute. We have to both contribute. We have to know exactly where all of our money is going, you know, none of, you know, sometimes that works. Sometimes it does. But sometimes that also brings up more fear. You know, what do you do with your money? You know what?
Of course. If I don't, exactly. Yeah, that can also cause other issues. Lucille, what do
but
you do with someone who has like the opposite problem? Like, what do you do with a spouse who is overly generous? So I have a husband like that. My friend also has a husband like that, and they will help everyone. They give money to anyone, and everybody comes to them for help, for money, and they're just generous, and they give money to all these people who don't deserve it, don't appreciate it, and they just never stop giving. That can also be an issue, right? Without being stingy, but how do you stop someone like that?
You know, it depends on who's handling the finances, like who's going over the books every month, who's paying the bills and all of that stuff, because I thought so. So, yes. So if you know what your husband is spending on, like if you know if he's spending on charity or where the money is going, if you can track that, sometimes you need to, again, be very forthright and say, look, I've got I've got this list of expenses here, all the stuff that you spent money on.
Yeah.
And, can we talk about this? Because to me, it seems like it's going out of control,
Yeah.
or it's preventing us from pursuing our financial dreams because we can't save enough and put it away for whatever we want to do because it's all flowing out to other people.
Yeah.
Sometimes people, when they look at, oh my God, I didn't realize that I spent $2,000 on, donations or whatever, sometimes it's a wake-up call when they see it in black and white. And certainly it's a wake-up call if the spouse, like yourself, says, I'm not happy with this at all. I'm just not happy with this, and we need to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
I agree completely. Beth, good luck with your husband. I mean, I hope you guys can do some kind of an agreement and resolve this, but you might need to go and get help from a professional and to make a plan for your marriage moving forward if you guys are not able to sort this out between the two of you. So we wish you the best of luck with everything.
Yes.
Our next question comes from John, who needs to protect himself financially. My fiance and I are planning to marry in 6 months. We're very much in love, but there's just one problem. I want to have a prenuptial agreement, and she's dead set against it. I trust her, but I've been burned before by ex-wives who've taken me to the cleaners. How many wives has this guy had? I also think an agreement would protect my fiance financially in the event of a breakup. She says it's unromantic and a sign that I don't trust her. How can I convince her that this is the right thing to do? The prenuptial agreement. Ooh.
Yes.
That's always a sticky situation, isn't it?
It is.
Are you for or against prenuptial agreements, Lucille?
Depends on how conscious you are about what you want out of them. Okay. Because, like, for example, I have a couple who are like this, and they're very mature. They both on their second marriages, and they both have grown-up children and grandchildren. So for them, it was really fine for both of them to have this kind of agreement so that their families would know that they're being taken care of, right?
Yeah. So it's protecting both sides, right? Basically.
Protecting both sides, absolutely. So in that case, it's perfectly okay. Now, this is, I think, similar to the previous question in that here you are, you're not yet married, and you're running into a big issue around a prenuptial agreement. And I would say this is a great time for you not to be thinking, how can I convince her to do this? But to be thinking more about what do we need to know about each other in terms of our relationship with money? Like, let's look at how we differ around money.
Yeah.
She may not have had a previous relationship. I don't know what her history is.
Yeah.
But she may never have been in the situation where she was taken to the cleaners. Okay.
Yeah.
But even so, whether or not that happened, you still need to know, why is it important for either one of you to be taking the position you're taking? And I don't buy that it's good enough to say, well, I need to protect myself because I'm so afraid of being burned again.
Yeah.
I don't think that's enough. I'm sorry, I don't. Because, you say you trust her, but really that is a sign of mistrust.
But then why get married?
That is a good question. Then you open up that question, right? Like, and that's where you have this discussion. Well, I see money this way. And like, I see that, in our marriage, I would like us to have a plan, this kind of a financial plan. So that our financial future can be secure, whatever we want, make our millions, whatever we want to do. But you have to be very open about what is the purpose of this prenuptial agreement? How is it a win-win for both of you? Or how is it going to break the relationship if it does, right? And you better figure that out now before you start, hiring the caterers for your wedding, right?
True. No, absolutely.
So So I'm not in any way against a prenuptial agreement. I don't agree that it's necessarily unromantic. I think that people are very naive about money and how it can destroy a relationship if you're not on board with your partner.
Yeah.
And so I think that if done in a very conscious way, where you're both being respectful of one another and you're both really seeing that this is a good thing to keep clarity, to maintain clarity about what happens with the money in the event of a breakdown, so that you don't have to then be, dealing with the impact of a breakup and then, oh my God, and now we're fighting over the money as well. You just don't want that. So in many ways, it can simplify your life going forward.
Yeah.
But if your fiance is dead set against it and you're trying to talk to one another and it's not working, you better be prepared that it may be that you decide that this is not the relationship you want, or you postpone the wedding and say, we need to get to know one another better before we tie the knot. I don't know. So I think it depends a lot on how you look at the prenuptial agreement and what your vision is around money. What's your relationship with money, and what do you want to do with it in the context of the marriage? Yeah. And that all has to be talked out. So I don't know, do you want to add?
Yeah. And, I mean, 50% of marriages end in divorce. And,
absolutely.
And John had previous marriages, ex-wives. So I can understand him being cautious, and especially if he's better off financially than she is, then that's another issue. And he was already taken to the cleaners a few times. Like I would be cautious too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think if I was in that position, I would not get married. Like if something would happen to my husband, I would just not get married again. I mean, I would not want to go through this whole thing, the prenuptial, or somebody taking what we worked so hard for. I totally can relate to that.
Yeah, well, John obviously has other needs as well, other than financial protection.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
But for the next one is going to be the one.
Yeah, I understand. Would you ever get married again, Lucille?
Oh, wow. That's
put you on the spot there, girl.
$1 million question. Well, yeah, but I say what a lot of people say was, yes, if all the conditions are right. Yeah, and I'm not in a position, just like you, I'm not in a position that I want to compromise.
Yeah.
I mean, there is some give and take. Yeah, absolutely. But given how complex relationships are, and how, as I get older, the field of potential men is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. It's kind of like, do I really want to be putting a lot of my eggs in that basket? Do I want to be pursuing, so I wouldn't be I'm at the point where I'm not actively pursuing it, but geez, if the guy fell in my lap, which I hear a lot of people say, I don't know how the guy's going to fall in your lap. But anyway, but then, I know how much hard work it takes.
And would you do a prenuptial agreement?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Just to make it really simple, so we both are, and you're probably at my age, you're probably involved with a guy who's got children already and maybe grandchildren, and I'm fine with that. They want to protect their estate for their family. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
Makes sense to me. So John, good luck to you with everything.
Good luck.
Congratulations on your marriage. Hopefully it will go ahead.
Hopefully it'll go ahead. But I would just say, just detach from the need to convince her. Just learn. I would just say explore. Let's explore first, okay?
Great tips, Lucille. Let's explore first. I love it.
Mona has a deep regret. Oh, I think this is a really painful one. 3 years ago, I fled from my abusive husband in the middle of the night with our 2 young children. I was scared, and all I could focus on was surviving and building a new life with my kids where we'd all be safe. He was very angry and refused to provide the full amount of support I was entitled to. I foolishly decided not to fight him on this. Now I wish I had, because I'm struggling financially while he's raking in lots of money. I don't have enough money to hire a lawyer and go after him for what he owes me. What should I do?
Wow. Mona, that's really, really tough with 2 young children.
Yeah. And unfortunately, this is so common. I hear it all the time, where women don't fight for what they're entitled to, and then they are really regret it, and it makes life so much harder for them and their kids afterwards. So I really feel for you. You know, I agree with you that you should be getting what you're entitled to.
Yes.
The problem is, are you okay, Lynn?
Yes, no, just had to sneeze, sorry.
Okay, all right. I thought you were really being very empathic.
No.
You should get what you're entitled to, but there are so many complications because maybe you find, say, sometimes you can find a paralegal that can help you out. Sometimes you may find a lawyer. You can just go for a consult. Like often they will offer like 30 minutes free consultation, and they can, if they don't feel like they can help you, they'll often give you options of what you can do. You know, even if you can find somebody who can work with you on a very limited budget, the legal system is not always fair and certainly does not work efficiently. So that's the problem. You could be in a long-term struggle for a very, very long time. Now, I have a client who left her husband, I think it's like it's almost 4 years ago now, and they have not been able to come to a full legal agreement on the financial obligations because he simply refuses to give any details of his finances.
Wow.
And no matter how many lawyers' letters are sent, and how much she quotes him, on what the law is, he's a procrastinator. We talked about
Yes.
this. Not only is he a procrastinator, as we talked about in a previous episode, but he is very angry, and he feels that he shouldn't have to. He's entitled. He feels he's entitled to the support, and that he shouldn't be assessed for anything that he might owe. So I'm sorry to say this, Mona, but this is a quagmire. The quagmire. So if you and I it sounds like you don't have any better relationship with him now than you did when you were with him. Because sometimes if you have just a good enough relationship, or the guy feels some responsibility for the children, you can sit down and talk to them and say, look, we're really struggling and you're not paying what you need to, what I'm entitled to. And the kids are, it's hard for me to raise the kids on this. Maybe he would reconsider, but I don't see that happen. I've never seen that happen, unfortunately.
And if he was abusive and she had to leave in the middle of the night, then the guy's probably a monster. So definitely not someone that you sit down and reason with. But the problem is, if Mona spends years trying to go after him, trying to get some kind of money, I mean, her mental health will be suffering the whole time. Like how much is that worth in the end? Or will you be able to even get anything out of him?
That's right. No, it sounds like maybe you're getting something from him, but it's not the full amount. So I agree.
He's making a lot of money. So obviously she's a bit resentful now because he's making money. And the children, if she's not well off and she's struggling with the 2 kids to make ends meet, then that's very hard to see.
Yeah, it is. It is. It really is. Yeah. And sometimes it's a matter of saying, like, really making a final decision, and you have to be really committed. Like Lynn says, do you want to be spending a ton of time, energy, money, and going through a lot of stress pursuing him for money, which is going to, eventually it will cost you your health.
Yeah. And a lot of money and time and everything. So you have to really weigh your options if in the end, if it's worth it at all. And will you get enough money to justify that? It's hard. I've seen so many people like this where, the guy remarries and then all of a sudden he's so generous with the new family and the new kids and the new wife. And there you are living in poverty. And it must be horrible to see that.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I don't have the final answer, like legally what you can do. I would certainly say if you want to go down that road, at least do a lot of research about what this would involve, and you talk to other women who've gone through it. Maybe you go on, Facebook groups or whatever, where there are communities of women who've gone through this. But you really do your research first before you decide what you're going to do.
if Mona spends years trying to go after him, trying to get some kind of money, I mean, her mental health will be suffering the whole time. Like how much is that worth in the end? Or will you be able to even get anything out of him?
So anyway,
Yeah,
tough.
absolutely.
It's tough.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
really feel for you, Mona. Very, very difficult situation, and we hope that you can resolve this, especially for the sake of the kids.
Yeah.
Good luck with everything.
Yeah. Luck.
That brings us to the last question of this episode, and this one's from Jackie, who is struggling with a shocking discovery. I've been married for 16 years. Over the past year, my husband has been spending less and less time at home, claiming that he's busy expanding his business. One day, he left his laptop open in the kitchen, and I saw a credit card statement on the screen. I noticed he'd been spending large sums of money on expensive restaurants, dinners, florists, and hotel rooms. No red flags there, right, Lucille?
Yep, absolutely.
I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I'm sure he's having an affair. Truth is, we've been growing apart for years, and the only reason I stayed with him was out of financial necessity. Interesting there. Now I'm torn. I don't feel I can continue living with him and pretending everything's okay. But I have no way of supporting myself if we divorce, and I'm overwhelmed at the thought of possibly having to go to court to get spousal support. I also have no way of knowing how much he's worth and how much he earns because he's always handled the finances and never revealed any of that to me. What should I do? Sounds like a very close, healthy marriage to me.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly.
Oh,
But
so much going on. There's a lot to unpack there,
so
Jackie.
much.
I
Yes,
think
yes, but
you might need your own
not
episode.
uncommon. Yeah, yeah. It's not uncommon though. And there are I'm always shocked about this, but there are quite a lot of women my age who are stuck in positions like this, where they have relied on the guy because that was, what people grew up with. At the time I was, a wee tot in the Paleolithic era, was
Yeah,
it,
nice one, Lucille.
you stayed at home and you're the housewife and mom and and the guy takes care of everything financially.
Yeah.
And then there's the big surprise when turns out that he's doing something on the side. Yeah, this is very difficult because you're not financially independent, Jackie, and I feel for you there. If you were, I'm sure it wouldn't be quite as much of a conflict for you. You'd probably just, say, hey, buddy,
Yeah.
I'm gone. This isn't for me. But you're in a difficult situation now. One thing that is really important here is what is the quality of your relationship like now? Now, you've said that you're kind of detached from him emotionally. You don't really love the guy. I don't know why that is. But is it simply that neither one of you have put a lot of effort into, being close?
Yeah.
Maybe you're empty nesters now, or, well, you're married for 16 years, so you probably aren't yet. But maybe you just did not work on the relationship. And it's not to be critical, but you didn't, because it takes effort. Like, Lynn, it takes effort to stay in an intimate relationship and keep the bond close, right? You have to work on that. You have to be together and talk to one another and deal with problems. And it may be that in your marriage, Jackie, the both of you were avoidant of dealing with any issues, or you didn't realize how much effort you needed to put into the marriage to keep it strong.
Yeah.
If there is any desire in you for this man, I don't know, is there in your heart of hearts any love for him still? Anything that you still value about the marriage? Then you can go to him and talk to him and say, listen, I know that this is going on. I would like to work on the relationship. I want to know why you've decided to do this. And I would, if you're willing, I would love to create a healthy relationship between the two of us. That's
But do you
one
think
option.
that's possible, Lucia? Because she says she's only with him for financial reasons.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know what the issue is there. Like, that may be very true, and something happened between the two of them, and she has just lost all love and maybe even respect for him. I don't know. I don't know.
She says they drifted apart. But then
They
it sounds
drifted
like there's not
apart.
even a marriage, there's no intimacy. So I'm not justifying why, if he's cheating, why he's
No,
doing that. But
this is only one option, and I agree with you, Lynn, probably not realistic in this situation. So at the other extreme is, well, okay, you swallow it and you just live the life that you can as if nothing had happened, which is not going to feel good for you. Obviously, it's not feeling good for you right now, knowing what you know.
exactly. And what if he falls in love with someone else and just leaves? Then what kind of situation
That's right. And then
will you be in then?
Well, but then again, you do have some recourse, because if he abandons you, then you do have some recourse under law. But as you say, that can be pretty daunting. That can be pretty overwhelming to have to go to court. I would say what I said in the previous question, which is research. Do your research before you even confront him. Figure out what you're legally entitled to if you decide to end the marriage, or if he does. So that's where you go consult with lawyers, or you do some Google search on your own. But know what your rights are. Know what you need to do. In the event that you either decide to end it yourself, or he leaves you for the other woman. Forewarned is forearmed. Right?
Absolutely.
So I would say, even before thinking about talking to him about this, you know what you're entitled to and what your obligations are in the event that the marriage fails completely.
Yeah. But I mean, it really sounds to me that it's heading that way. I mean, how long can you carry this? It's just not a good situation. So
Not a good situation.
something needs to be done. And it's just very strange to me that a wife would not even know how much money they have, or what the husband earns, or like.
Well, you're certainly not in that position, Lynn, and I'm with you on that. If I want to know where all the money is, absolutely. And both of us are working spouses, or have been working spouses. We're not dependent financially on our spouses, but
of course,
you're absolutely right. It's shocking how many women, though, are in this position where they just trusted, and that was the fairy tale that they grew up with, that the guy is there to financially protect you. No, you never want to be put in that vulnerable position of being dependent on somebody else for money.
It's horrible.
Never.
And then you're stuck in a situation like this where you can't get out, you can't support yourself. You have to, look the other way when he's cheating and spending money on everyone else. And like, what a crazy situation to be in that. Like, I can't even imagine. Like, financial independence was always huge to me. And I think,
me too.
we need to teach this to our children, to our girls, when they grow up, not to be dependent on men, but to be able to provide for yourself, and always have that freedom that, if you're in this toxic situation, that you can walk away and support yourself, and not have to go fight for spousal support. Like,
exactly.
Jackie,
right.
Good luck, girl.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Let's hope that you can come out of this with your dignity and maybe some more financial independence.
Yes,
intact.
hopefully that will teach you, moving forward to have some more financial independence. Super important. Guys, thank you very much for listening and watching us wherever you may be around the world. Please do continue to send us your questions. We love hearing from you, and make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video or this podcast with someone that might benefit from this. Finances are huge, and I think this really needs to be talked about a lot more, especially for us ladies. And in the next episode, we're going to talk about overcoming your fears. And Dr. Lucille's putting me in the hot seat again. And this time we're going to talk about my adventures to Qatar. So stay tuned for that. Dr. Lucille, thank you for your insight and wisdom, always.
Thank you for all of your insight and wisdom too. And thank you, everybody, for bringing us these amazing questions.
Thank you, guys. See you in the next episode. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Please be aware that Lynn and I are here to provide insights, advice, stories that are for educational and entertainment purposes only. None of our content should be considered to be personal, medical, or mental health therapy. If you are experiencing a mental health or physical health challenge, please consult the appropriate healthcare specialist. We are here to provide the best possible content in an atmosphere of positive conversation and personal growth.